Folks, give it up for Les Strachan.
Yay!
Yes, Brian, I wrote it. You just didn't read all of it. Didn't even get through the first page. Yeah, Flowers of the Forest. That was brilliant. That was a lovely piece of pipe in there too. I started to get up, but it's hard for me to get up and down. I want to mention Bobby McKinney, who was a friend of mine, died this year. Bobby never set foot outside Bedford County, but he was convinced that he was from the Isle of Skye with a name like McKinney. And he and I drank quantities of Drambuie trying to prove it. So, Bobby, wherever you are, and I hope you're up there and not down there. I will tell you Bobby's one claim to fame, incidentally. Years ago, when I was an athlete, I used to compete in the Highland Games all over the United States, and I used to compete down in Grandfather Mountain quite often, and I was a Highland wrestler and stuff. And Bobby had come with me. I said he didn't leave Bedford County, but apparently he did. He came down there with me one time, and he was convinced that he could wrestle. I said, okay. So, if you ever been to the Highland Games, you're supposed to wrestle in a kilt. So they gave Bobby this big kilt, and they wrapped it around himself. And he got out there to wrestle this fella, and immediately his kilt fell to his ankles. Now, that wouldn't have been so bad, but CBS Morning Edition was there. It went national. Poor boy, that was Bobby. But anyway, hey, this is a great vibe in here tonight. I want to keep it kind of going. Don't worry, I usually don't look at this stuff, but just in case, I have to come back to it. It's there. Like talk about Robert Burns, I got a limited time frame, I understand. There's lots of other things we want to be doing. We've got great musicians. I'm only here to hear Josh and Julie, which has taken far too long. The Paley boys, the Scottish City Paley have been fantastic. I mean, you don't realise, I do a lot of these things all over the country and stuff. You don't realise how lucky we are. We have some fantastic traditional music talent here tonight and stuff. But you know, I know I'm not supposed to worry about the time, but I'm just going to tell you this quick teeny wee story. You know, it scared me when I saw Brett and Philip sending out, this great Burns scholar, Leslie Strachan. Let me tell you, I'm not a scholar. Let me just tell you this quick story. I'll try and do it in under 2 minutes because I've only got a limited space of time. I left school at 15. As soon as I turned 15, I left school at 15. When I was a child, I was so stupid that, I'd come home from school and the teacher would say, oh, you got a problem, Mrs. Strachan. So my mother, convinced that it certainly wasn't my problem, it was the teacher's problem, she made my father go up to school to address the headmaster. So I was dragged out of school. I'm 9 years old, 10 years old. I'm illiterate, whatever it is. I can't do counting sticks. And I'm dragged into the headmaster's office with my mother and father. Now, my father looks over at the headmaster, Mr. Robinson, and I can assure you, Mr. Robinson and I were on close terms. We knew each other. And before my mother started in on it, my father said, Mr. Robinson, he said, I'd just like to say something before my wife starts in here about me, Leslie, not getting the right education. He said, I just want to tell you something. He said, I don't know if you know much about horse racing or horses. He said, to get the two fastest thoroughbred horses, you breed the two thoroughbreds together. You see, that gives you a fast horse. He said, well, I'm no a thoroughbred, and Nancy's mother, Leslie's mother, is no a thoroughbred either. She's more like a Clydesdale, and I'm a Clydesdale. He said, we don't expect the boy to be smart. My mother never forgave him to that day. So no, that was 15 years I came out of school, went off in the army, and made something myself, became somebody. But enough of me, we're here to talk about Robert Burns tonight, and I love what's going on. There's a great vibe in here. You know, when Robert Burns said, there was a lad was born in Kyle, what the day and what the style. I doot it's hardly worth the while to be sae nice with Robin. He'll hae misfortunes, great and small, but he'll be a credit to us all. Robert Burns wrote that about himself in celebration of his 28th birthday. And here we are, 265 years later, Roanoke, Virginia, and we're still celebrating his birthday. Isn't that amazing? I think it's amazing.
Yay.
You know, I understand this is Scots of the Valley, and I love what the Scots of the Valley have done. I love it. You've got this Burns group going, and yet it's a Scottish celebration. We're celebrating our heritage, we're celebrating our music, we're celebrating our history, and thanks to Troy, we're guzzling down great whiskey. So, you can't any more than that. If you think about it, a poet farmer, and that's what Robert Burns was, he was a poet farmer. He was born in an obscure corner of southwest Scotland, and he started writing poems in an obscure dialect, in a Scottish dialect, about local people, local customs, nature, but the nature of man is what he continued to write about. If you think about that, that's what's so amazing, that he's published in 50 languages. Statues of him are erected around the world. I'm not trying to resurrect Robert Burns for you. I'm trying to remind you of how important Robert Burns is and why we celebrate something called the Immortal memory. That this man would go on to become the most universal poet that the world has ever known. I'll give you a brief life, because I don't have a lot of time to give you a full life, a brief life. Born in 1759, oldest child of 7, raised on a farm, never owned a farm in his life. His parents never owned a farm in his life. He was the oldest of 7 children. By the time he was 15 years old, he was the principal labourer on that farm. By the time he was 15. Limited education by his father and some transient teachers that would come through. Burns was given this education, but he had a gift for the book. Burns was said his whole life he was never without a book. Every meal he's reading a book. He's ploughing the field, he's reading a book. I don't know about that. That may be a wee bit of a stretch. But here he is, he's a young man. By the time he's 20 years old, he's well known in his neighbourhood. He's already writing poems. By the time he's 25, he's published this small book of poems called Poems Chiefly in the Scottish Dialect, published in my hometown in Scotland, in Kilmarnock, and known as the famous Kilmarnock edition. 612 copies, that's it. Immediately sold out, sold by subscription, immediately sold out. Poems that he had been writing about local people and local customs, immediately sold out. People wanted more of it. He couldn't afford it. Off to Edinburgh to have a second edition of his books published. Now this is a peasant. No, I hate to use that word. He wasn't a peasant, he was a ploughman poet. He borrows a pony, he rides into Edinburgh, mud on his boots, stays with a friend in a lodging house, and within a week, he's the most famous man in Edinburgh. Edinburgh, at this time, the seat of the great Scottish Enlightenment, and here's Robert Burns, this ploughman poet, and he's acclaimed as the greatest thing that ever happened since sliced bread. They want a second edition. He has to hang around in Edinburgh for a year. Second edition gets published. He makes a wee bit of money, He buys into another farm. He never owned a farm in his life. Moves to Dumfries, rents the farm, uses the money to stock the farm. He and his wife, by this time, Jean Armour, moved down there. He's already got a bunch of kids. Told you we're not talking about the children tonight. I know you want the children thing. 10 children, 14 children, 10 years. That's it. He moves down there to Dumfries. He's there for about 7 more years. Farm fails after 2 years. Becomes a tax collector. Writes a few poems. Some of them could be considered anti-government. And then he dies at 37 years old. That's it, Robert Burns. Why are we still remembering him? Why do we still have an immortal memory? Immortal memory. Immortal, what does that mean? It means never dying. But that's the memory of Robert Burns that's never dying. I can assure you, Robert Burns was mortal. In fact, he was so mortal, in fact, that when he created that first, not that first poem, but one of his better known poems about the wee mouse, you know, the one that he's ploughing along the field, and he knocks over this little mouse's nest, and the mouse pops out, and the mouse is done. I mean, Burns has ruined his day, he's ruined his life, because there's nowhere for that mouse to survive. But yet, Robert Burns compares that mortality to himself and sees himself as worse off than that poor wee mouse that's not going to survive. When he said, but Mousy, they're no alone in proving foresight may be vain. The best laid schemes of mice and men going after gley. But then he said, but thou art blessed compared with me, because the present only touches thee. But I must backward cast my eye on prospects drear, and forward, though I cannae see, I guess and fear. That's mortality, and that's what endeared Robert Burns to Scottish people, that sense of mortality. Robert Burns never thought of himself as better than anybody else. He never set himself out to become the bard of Scotland, but he liked to point out our foibles and our weaknesses and our mistakes, and none other comes better than that other wee poem that you all know so well about To a Louse, when he sees the wee bug climbing up the woman's head. Lice, common lice. Everybody had them, not just the rich, not just the poor, everybody had them. But Robert Burns is sitting in church one day and he sees this louse climbing out from underneath the collar and climbing up onto this woman's hat. Well, see, it's that hat that makes the story for Robert Burns, because here was Jenny, or what her name was. She had the latest fashion on. She had this great big thing called a Lunardi bonnet. So she's thinking that maybe she's just a little bit better than herself. She's dressed up for church. I'm looking good. Feeling good at church. Looking good. Good new hat on. And Robert Burns, in the most gentle way, said, oh, the gifts the Lord to give us, to see ourselves as others see us. It would frae many a blunder free us, and foolish notion, and what airs and gait and dress would leave us an even devotion. Brent, you need to think about that last line, an even devotion. But anyway, you will. But as Burns saw our feelings in individuals, he could also expose us, our human condition and our feelings there, even more relevant in today's world than in his own time, when terror and war continue to plague us. We're reminded of what Robert Burns said, when he said, many and sharp and numerous ills inwoven with our fame, more pointed still we make ourselves, regret, remorse, and shame. Man's inhumanity to man makes countless thousands more Think about that. That's a ploughman poet, that he's able to see the damnable things that we as a civilization can do to our fellow man. But as he pointed out our failings, he also pointed out some of the great things about us. We'll sing it tonight. He gave us that gift of Auld Lang Syne, this most cherished song of friendship that's sung around the world, in every corner of the world. Oh, that's right, you don't understand the words. I can assure you the Chinese, the Japanese, they're singing it. They don't understand it too, but we continue to sing that song. It's a song of friendship and remembrance and of times gone past. And it wasn't just that song, it was the great love songs that he gave us, like Sweet Bonny Banks of Bonny Doon, Sweet Afton Water, A Fond Kiss. A Fond Kiss, that song to Clorinda, when he said, had we never loved so kindly, had we never loved so blindly, never met or never parted, we ne'er been broken hearted. I'm telling you, think about those lines. What Sir Walter Scott said it was the essence of every love song ever written. Robert Burns didn't think it was his best song. I think it was his best song. Robert Burns had this idea that his best song was a song that he had this affair with this 19-year-old girl in Dumfries called Anna Park. When he penned a song, he said, last night I had a pint of wine, a place where nobody saw me. Last night the golden locks lay on this breast of a banner. Ooh, but the most passionate love song that Robert Burns, he wrote it for his wife when he said, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. My love is like a melody so sweetly played in tune. So fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry. But you know, as much as Robert Burns loved the lassies and wrote these love songs, his greatest love may have been for his country, for liberty, for Scotland. You know, Scotland lost its independence, and in 1314, at the Battle of Bannockburn, we regained that independence. 1314. So Robert Burns comes along in 1787, 400 and some years later, to the very site of the Battle of Bannockburn, and he pens this song that would go on to become Scotland's national anthem. Scots wha hae when Wallace bled, Scots whan Bruce has often led. Welcome to your gory bed, or to victory. Now's the day and now's the hour, see affront the battle hour, see approach proud Edward's power, chains and slavery. He wrote that song 400 years after the fact, and that song became Scotland's national anthem, which we still sing to this day. Oh, am I all over the place? Am I wandering? I don't know. I kind of tend to wander, but anyway. I said that Robert Burns' greatest love was for his people. Not just for his country, but for all people. You know, Robert Burns wrote this wonderful song that we used to reopen Scottish Parliament 20 years ago, called A Man's a Man for All That. What Robert Burns insisted about humanity was that princes and lords are but the breath of kings. We're all common people. Don't make somebody better than what they are. When he said, is there for honest poverty that hangs its head and all that, the coward slave we pass him by, we dare be poor for all that and all that that's coming yet, for all that. The rank is but the guinea stamp, the man's the gowd for all that. His own philosophy, Robert Burns' own philosophy, was simple. when he said, whatever mitigates the woes or increases the happiness in others, this is my criteria of goodness. And whatever injures society at large, or any individual in it, this is my measure of iniquity, that in the brotherhood of man lies the salvation of the world. Think about that. This is a poor boy born in a mud-walled cabin, self-educated, yet he can say to us, in the brotherhood of man lies the salvation of the world. The man's greatness should be measured by honesty and worth. Then let us pray that come it may as come it will for all that sense and worth o'er all the earth shall bear the grief for all that. That's what Robert Burns was trying to tell us. It's the reason why we have an immortal memory. Not the man, but the memory of what he wanted us to be and what we're capable of being. And tonight, on his 265th birthday, I'd like you all to stand up, fill up your glasses, and we'll have a toast.